The world had gone silent. Streets that once echoed with life now stood empty, swallowed by the heavy hush of lockdown. The sky above the city had turned a softer color, as if even the clouds were trying to stay still. Inside a small apartment on the 7th floor, Ryan Hale, a quiet man in his early 30s, sat near the window, watching the world he once knew fade into distance. He had grown used to solitude. His job as a systems engineer was remote now, and days blurred together like long gray ribbons. But his peace changed the day the doorbell rang. When he opened it, a figure stood outside, slim tall, and wrapped in a travel cloak that shimmered faintly under the hall light. Her eyes were bright silver, her hair a shade of pale violet, and her voice, when she spoke, carried a melodic tone unlike anything human. "Ryan Hale?" she asked softly. "I am Lyra, the student assigned under the Interplanetary Exchange Program. Your address was given as my safe residence." Ryan blinked. He had forgotten about the email from his university. Weeks ago, the one asking if he could host an alien student stranded by the travel shutdown. Now here she was, looking both graceful and uncertain. A living reminder that Earth was no longer alone in the universe. He nodded awkwardly. "Right, of course. Come in." Lyra stepped inside, carrying a small silver case and a circular disc that hovered slightly above her hand. Her eyes scanned the room's simple furniture, stacks of books, and a window with soft light streaming through. She looked relieved, as if expecting worse. "I will not be a burden," she said quickly, almost rehearsed. "I only need a space to rest and a network connection to continue my remote studies. I will stay quiet." Ryan smiled gently. "You don't have to hide. It's not like there's anywhere else to go these days." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Humans always say things with kindness, even when they don't mean them." "Do you mean it?" He nodded. "Yeah, I mean it." That moment marked the start of their strange companionship. At first, the days passed in cautious silence. Lyra kept to herself, sitting near the corner of the living room with her glowing tablet, typing symbols that shifted and flowed like liquid light. Ryan worked quietly beside her, pretending not to notice how she always flinched at loud noises, or how she watched him from the corner of her eye. When he cooked, he tried to make her feel comfortable. He offered her human food, but she politely refused most of it. When she finally accepted a cup of hot tea, she lifted it slowly, studying the steam. "We do not drink warmth," she said. "It feels alive." Ryan laughed softly. "That's kind of the point. It keeps you warm when the world feels cold." She smiled faintly, trying the tea again. "Warmth," she repeated, as if memorizing the word. Over the next few days, their quiet routine turned into something softer. Ryan found himself explaining small human habits, why people clapped at the news for doctors every evening, why music echoed through balconies, and why humans baked bread when they were scared. Lyra listened carefully, her curiosity endless, but there were moments she seemed distant. Sometimes, when the moonlight touched her skin, it shimmered faintly with markings that pulsed like light beneath water. She would quickly pull her sleeves down, pretending nothing happened. One evening, Ryan found her sitting by the window, whispering to herself in her native language. The tone was gentle, almost sorrowful. He hesitated. "Everything okay?" She looked at him, eyes wide, as if caught doing something forbidden. "I am. Fine. It is my phase. It is beginning sooner than I expected." "Phase?" he asked. Lyra's gaze lowered. "My species has cycles, not like human months. It is a biological rhythm connected to our planet's moons. During that time, our bodies release energy to adjust to the atmosphere. It is usually controlled through chambers on my world. But here," she trailed off, pressing a hand to her chest. "Here, I have no chamber." Ryan frowned, trying to understand. "Is it dangerous?" "Only if it becomes unstable," she said softly. "My body temperature will rise. My senses may become too strong. I might react to sounds or lights." He felt concern rise in his chest. "Then you should rest. I can help somehow." And she shook her head quickly. No, humans cannot help with this. It is our responsibility to control it. Please, just stay away if it begins. But Ryan was not the kind to turn away. The next day, the temperature in the apartment rose slightly. Lyra looked paler, her silver eyes duller. She tried to continue her studies, but her hands trembled over the tablet. Ryan noticed her struggling to breathe evenly, her body swaying as if she were dizzy. "Lyra, you need to stop," he said. Walking over, she tried to stand, but her knees buckled. He caught her before she hit the floor, and she gasped softly, her skin burning with heat. Faint, glowing lines ran down her arms like living circuits. "I told you." "Stay back," she whispered weakly. Ryan ignored her warning and helped her sit on the couch. "I'm not leaving you like this. What do you need?" She took a shaky breath, cold and quiet. He rushed to the kitchen, grabbing cold packs from the freezer and wrapping them in cloth. Gently, he placed them near her arms and shoulders. The faint glow dimmed a little, and her breathing steadied. After a long silence, she opened her eyes again, weak but calm. "You, humans, never listen." Ryan smiled tiredly. "You're right. It's kind of our thing." Lyra tried to smile too. "You are stubborn creatures, stubborn and helpful," he said softly. Over the next few days, Ryan adjusted the apartment to make it easier for her. He dimmed the lights, blocked harsh sounds, and learned how to read her body temperature through the alien scanner she carried. Sometimes, when she couldn't sleep, he would talk quietly about Earth, about how people missed shaking hands, how birds returned to cities, how silence made people realize what truly mattered. One night, Lyra listened to him speak about his family, his mother's garden, his sister's laugh, the smell of rain before summer. When he finished, she said, "Humans find beauty even in sadness. On my world, we only find logic." "Maybe that's why we needed to meet," Ryan said. "To remind each other what we're missing?" Lyra looked at him with a faint warmth in her silver eyes. "Perhaps." But her condition was not stable. Each night, her body temperature increased. Sometimes she would shiver violently, hearing sounds Ryan couldn't hear like distant echoes calling her name. One evening, she clutched her head and whispered, "The moons are aligning. My body can feel them, even from here." Ryan knelt beside her. "Then we'll keep you safe till it passes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why do you care? You could move to another apartment. 'Cause you're my responsibility now," he said simply. "And because you're my friend?" The word seemed to strike her deeply. "Friend," she repeated as if testing it. Then, for the first time since she arrived, she laughed softly, sound light and almost musical. "I have not had one of those before," Ryan grinned. "You do now." Outside, the city remained quiet. Inside, the two of them learned to survive together, one human and one alien, each adapting in their own way. The air smelled faintly of herbal tea and antiseptic from Lyra's medkits. Ryan worked late into the night, trying to understand her biology through her digital notes. Even though most of it was beyond him, he just wanted to help. On the 7th night, she woke suddenly, her markings glowing brighter than before. Her voice trembled as she said, "It is getting stronger. If it goes too far, I could burn from within." Ryan didn't think twice. He filled a bowl with cool water and placed a cloth over her forehead, whispering calm words. He stayed beside her until the glow began to fade. When she finally fell asleep, he sat nearby. Watching her breathing steady for the first time, he realized how fragile she truly was beneath all that mystery. When morning came, sunlight touched the curtains, painting soft gold across the room. Lyra opened her eyes slowly, looking stronger. "You stayed," she murmured. "Couldn't sleep," Ryan said with a tired smile. "Besides, someone had to make sure you didn't melt my furniture." She laughed weakly. "I will try not to." He poured her some water. "So what now?" Lyra looked out the window at the quiet city. "Now we wait. My body will fight to balance itself. But I think—" She looked at him, her eyes softer than ever. "I think I will survive, because you did not leave." Ryan didn't reply. He just nodded quietly. Outside, the world was still locked down. Inside, Two very different beings had found something unexpected. Companionship in the middle of fear, and neither of them realized that the hardest part of the cycle was yet to come. The next few days passed like a dream that refused to end. The world outside remained locked, silent, and still. Inside Ryan's small apartment, time moved differently. The air felt heavy with the hum of machines, the faint glow of alien symbols, and the slow rhythm of Lyra's breathing as her strange cycle continued. Ryan tried to create a sense of normal life. Every morning, he brewed tea for both of them, even though she rarely drank it. He cooked simple meals, played quiet music, and talked to fill the silence. But he could feel the tension building. Lyra's body was changing faster now. The faint markings that had once flickered softly were now glowing brighter each night. Sometimes, she slept, her skin shimmered like starlight. It was beautiful, but frightening too. Ryan didn't know how much more her body could take. One evening, as the sky outside turned purple with dusk, Lyra sat near the window, staring at the empty streets below. Her silver eyes reflected the lights from the city. "Does your world always fall so quiet?" she asked softly. "Not usually," Ryan replied. "We're not built for silence. People like to move, to talk, to see each other. Lockdown took that away." Lyra nodded slowly. "On my world, silence is a gift. Here it feels like a cage." Ryan glanced at her. "It feels like that for me too." For a moment they sat together without speaking. The soft hum of her device filled the air. Then, without warning, she shivered. The faint glow under her skin pulsed sharply, and she gripped the edge of the chair. "Lyra," her voice trembled. "It's starting again. The energy is rising too fast." Ryan rushed to her side. The air around her seemed to vibrate faintly, the temperature rising by the second. He felt it, even from a distance. "What do you need?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "Cool air, no sound, and you must stay calm." "My body reacts to emotion." He nodded quickly and turned off all unnecessary lights, unplugged devices, and opened the balcony door. A cool breeze drifted in, making the curtains flutter. He fetched the ice packs again and placed them carefully on her arms. Lyra closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing. Her markings dimmed, then flared again as if her body were fighting an invisible battle. "Lyra, talk to me," Ryan said gently. "Tell me what's happening inside you." She took another trembling breath. "My body is searching for balance. On my planet, the moons rise in sequence, helping regulate our internal energy. But here, there are no moons that match. The rhythm is broken. My system does not know how to stop." Ryan tried to understand. "So it's like, your body is stuck in an endless loop." She nodded weakly. "Yes, without regulation, it could burn my cells." Ryan felt fear twist in his chest. "Then we'll fix it. There has to be a way." "You can't," she whispered. "It is beyond human medicine, maybe," he said softly, "but not beyond human care." That night, Ryan didn't sleep. He stayed near Lyra, writing down her temperature readings and pulse changes, trying to spot a pattern. He noticed her condition grew worse whenever the air got dry or when there was noise outside. So he adjusted everything, added moisture to the air, kept the lights soft, and played gentle sound waves that matched her body's pulse. By dawn, she was still alive, though weak. Her skin looked pale, her breathing shallow. Ryan watched her with quiet determination. When she opened her eyes, she whispered, "You stayed again."
I told you,"
he said with a small smile. "I'm stubborn." Lyra's lips curved faintly. "Humans risk themselves for others too easily," shrugged. "That's how we survive." She closed her eyes again, whispering, "That is how you live." Later that day, Ryan tried to contact the Galactic Assistance Center again. The signal was poor, and the operator on the other end sounded robotic. Travel restrictions remain active. Medical teams cannot be dispatched to human zones without clearance. She could die, Ryan said. Then record the data. "We will review when access is restored," the voice replied coldly. He hung up, frustrated. Lyra watched him from the couch, sensing his anger. "Don't waste your energy," she said softly. "Your systems are slow, but your heart is fast." "That is dangerous." Ryan turned toward her. "I can't just do nothing." "You already do more than enough," she said. "You make me feel safe." He didn't know what to say. Her words carried a quiet sincerity that made his chest tighten. He simply nodded and went back to preparing her cooling packs. That night, a thunderstorm rolled across the city. Rain hit the windows in hard waves, and lightning flashed like white fire across the sky. The power flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The apartment fell into darkness. Ryan froze. The machines keeping Lyra's environment stable shut down instantly. The soft hum disappeared, leaving only the sound of rain. "No, no, no," he muttered. Reaching for a flashlight, Lyra stirred weakly. "What's happening?" "Power outage," he said quickly. "Stay still. I'll fix it." The whole district was dark. Ryan's phone showed no signal, no light from nearby buildings. He looked toward Lyra. Her glow was already rising again, faint but growing brighter with each breath. "My body. It senses instability," she whispered. "The balance is gone." Ryan moved closer, using a blanket soaked in cold water to lower her temperature. "You're going to be fine," he said firmly. "I won't let this beat us." The light from her skin cast strange reflections across the room, painting the walls in silver. She looked ethereal, almost otherworldly, but fragile too. "I can hear them," she murmured suddenly. "Hear who?" "The echoes of my world. They call to me." Ryan felt a chill. "Then focus on my voice instead." He spoke softly, telling her about Earth, the sound of the sea, the smell of coffee, the laughter of children in parks. He kept talking until her trembling eased. For a long moment, the storm outside grew quieter, as if even the weather was listening. Hours later, when the power returned, Ryan reconnected the life support heaters and scanned her vitals. Her energy levels had stabilized slightly. She was exhausted but alive. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. "You did not sleep again." He smiled wearily. "Didn't want to miss the fireworks." She frowned slightly. "Fireworks. The lightning," he said. "Humans find beauty even in danger." She looked thoughtful. "That is why your kind has survived so many storms." Ryan chuckled softly. "Maybe. Or maybe we're just too stubborn to give up." She smiled weakly. "You keep saying that word stubborn." "I think it means brave." Days turned into a strange rhythm of care and calm. Lyra's energy would rise and fall like tides, and Ryan would be there every time to bring her back. She began teaching him small things about her world, how her people measured time through sound instead of clocks, how they used color to express emotion instead of words in return. Ryan told her stories about Earth, about forests and oceans, about holidays and the strange ways humans celebrated hope. She listened with wonder, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "Your world is noisy," she said once, "but full of life? That's what makes it home," he replied. Sometimes, when the air outside was calm, they sat near the window, watching stars appear between the clouds. Lyra pointed out constellations unfamiliar to Ryan. "That one," she said, tracing a faint line across the sky, "is the symbol of unity. It is said that when two lights meet there, their paths become one." "Okay." Ryan looked at the sky and smiled. "I like that story." "So do I," she whispered. But peace never lasted long. On the 10th day, her body entered another surge. The temperature in the apartment climbed rapidly, and the glow beneath her skin became almost blinding. Ryan panicked as her breathing grew shallow. "Lyra, stay with me." She couldn't answer. The air shimmered with strange static energy, making his hair stand on end. He reached for her hand. It was burning hot. He realized the machines were overheating. Thinking fast, he tore off his jacket, wrapped it around the power converters, and switched the system to emergency mode. The room's temperature dropped sharply. Gradually, the glow around Lyra dimmed again. She exhaled shakily and opened her eyes, weak but alive. Ryan sat on the floor beside her, drenched in sweat. "You really know how to scare a guy." She smiled faintly. "I warned you," he said, catching his breath. But I don't listen very well. You listen to the important things, she said softly. That is enough. That night, after she had fallen asleep, Ryan stood by the window, watching the rain fade from the glass. For the first time, he understood something about humanity that he had never noticed. Before, humans didn't survive because they were the strongest or the smartest. They survived because they refused to look away when someone needed help. Even when that someone came from another world, he turned toward Lyra, who slept peacefully under the faint glow of the machines. Her breathing was steady. Her skin shimmered softly like moonlight on water. Ryan smiled quietly. Hang in there, Lyra, he whispered. We're almost through this. Outside, the city remained silent. But inside that little apartment, life still pulsed to beings from different worlds, now bound by trust, waiting for the first sunrise after the longest storm. The morning light slipped quietly through the curtains. The city was still half asleep, wrapped in a soft silence that felt less frightening now. Ryan stood by the kitchen counter, watching steam rise from his cup of tea. His eyes were heavy, his body tired, but his mind refused to rest. It had been almost 2 weeks since Lyra's phase began. Every day had felt like walking on the edge of something unknown, a mixture of fear, patience, and strange wonder. He had learned to read her condition like a rhythm, sensing when her energy would rise and when it would fall. But today felt different. The air itself seemed calmer. When Lyra awoke, her breathing was steady, her skin pale but not glowing. She looked at him with quiet awareness. You did not sleep again, Ryan smiled faintly. Guess I didn't want to miss the sunrise. She tilted her head slightly. Humans chase small lights even when surrounded by darkness. He laughed softly. Maybe that's why we survived so long, eh? Lyra sat up slowly, her long hair falling over her shoulders. My body feels lighter, she said after a pause. The phase may be ending. Ryan let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. That's good news. But she didn't smile. Instead, her eyes wandered to the window. When it ends, I will have to return. The council will call me back once travel reopens. He nodded slowly, though the thought made the room feel emptier. Of course, that's the plan. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the faint hum of the machines filled the silence. As the day moved forward, Lyra began to regain strength. She could walk around the apartment without trembling, and her laughter returned soft, musical, almost like wind chimes. She began helping Ryan again with small things, tidying the shelves, preparing data reports, and even learning how to make simple human meals. The first time she tried to cook, she accidentally made the food emit blue smoke. Ryan ran to the kitchen alarmed. Is it supposed to do that? He asked. She looked at the pan seriously. On my planet, blue means complete. Here, Ryan said. Coughing through the smell, blue means we order takeout. Lyra laughed for a long time, the sound echoing through the apartment like sunlight breaking through clouds. That evening, they sat together by the window as the world outside slowly started to wake. Drones delivered supplies again. Distant sirens faded, and the sky cleared. Lyra looked peaceful. Your world heals fast, she said. Ryan smiled. We break fast too, so it balances out. She looked thoughtful. On my world, they say balance comes from opposites. Maybe that is why you and I survived this phase together? He looked at her, his tone quiet. Maybe we're not so opposite after all. Lyra's silver eyes softened. Perhaps not. Then, as if remembering something, she turned to her device and activated a small, holographic projection. A swirl of symbols appeared in the air, glowing faintly blue. This is my medical record, she said. It shows that my phase has reached stability. I will fully recover in 2 or 3 cycles. Ryan looked at the data lines he couldn't understand. Numbers that meant nothing to him, but the relief on her face said enough. That's amazing. Lyra. She hesitated, then added quietly. It would not have been possible without you. Humans were never trained to handle our kind's biological phases. Yet you did. You adapted, Ryan smiled. I didn't do much. I just listened and stayed calm. She shook her head gently. You did more than that. You cared? That night, the lockdown finally lifted. The government announced that citizens could step outside again in limited numbers. For the first time in months, Ryan heard laughter echoing faintly from the streets below. He turned to Lyra, who stood near the balcony door, watching the sky. Want to go out? She looked uncertain. Will they accept me? They might stare, Ryan admitted, but they'll get used to it. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. Then I want to see this world, the one that survived a storm with me. They stepped outside together. The air felt cleaner, the sky wider. People across the street were clapping, smiling, some crying. Children ran in circles, amazed just to feel open air again. Lyra stood quietly, the wind brushing through her violet hair. It's beautiful, she whispered. Ryan nodded. Yeah, it's been waiting for us. She turned to him with a soft smile. You humans are strange. You fight everything, even loneliness, and somehow you win. He chuckled. Guess we're just stubborn like that. Her eyes glowed faintly in the sunlight. That word again. It's our best and worst quality. She laughed gently. As days passed, the world began to rebuild. Ryan returned to remote work, and Lyra began sending reports to her world's council. Her strength had returned completely now, and the bright patterns on her skin had faded. She wore simple earth clothes, blending in surprisingly well. But every evening, they still shared tea by the window, her new favorite ritual. One evening, as the sun painted the sky orange and gold, Lyra spoke softly. I received a message today. Transport lines are reopening next week. My people will come for me. Ryan froze for a second, then forced a smile. That's great, Lyra. You'll finally get to go home, she nodded slowly. Yes, home. Her tone carried both joy and sadness. But this place also became home in a way. You made it feel like that. Ryan looked at her. It's funny. I thought I'd go crazy being locked inside with someone I barely knew. But now that it's ending, it feels strange. Lyra smiled faintly. Endings always do. They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the city's distant heartbeat. On her last night, Lyra packed her small silver case. The same case she had brought on the day they met. She moved slowly, as if afraid to close the final chapter too soon. Ryan watched her quietly. Got everything? She nodded. Yes. Only one thing left. From the case, she took a small crystal pendant, transparent with a faint pulse of light inside. She held it carefully in her hand and stepped toward him. This is for you, she said. It holds a frequency from my home world. When you touch it, it will play a single tone, the sound of our unity song. It is something we give only to those we trust completely. Ryan took the pendant gently. It's beautiful, Lyra smiled softly. So are you, in the human way? He laughed quietly. I'll take that as a compliment. She tilted her head. It was one. The next morning, the transport shuttle arrived quietly at dawn. It hovered above the empty street, silver and smooth like a drop of liquid light. Ryan and Lyra stood near the balcony, watching as the ramp extended down. Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Thank you, Ryan Hale, for everything. For your patience, for your warmth, for your humanity.
Wait.
He smiled faintly. Thank you for trusting me. I will not forget, she said. He held up the pendant she had given him. And I'll keep this as proof. Lyra took one last look at the city, the streets, the sky, the apartment that had been both her cage and her sanctuary. Then she turned back to him, her silver eyes shining with quiet emotion. On my world, she said softly. When two people share survival, their paths remain joined across the stars, no matter the distance. Ryan nodded. Then I guess we'll meet again someday, she smiled. Yes, someday. And with that, she stepped onto the ramp. The shuttle doors closed with a soft hum. The ship rose slowly, disappearing into the bright morning sky. Ryan stood there for a long time, staring upward until the last trace of light faded. The apartment felt empty now, but not lonely. It held memories in every corner, laughter, fear, warmth, and quiet strength. He placed the pendant on the table and watched it glow faintly. A soft tone filled the air, gentle and calm like a heartbeat from another world. He closed his eyes, smiling to himself. "Goodbye, Lyra," he whispered. "And thank you." Outside, the city began to live again. Footsteps, voices, and laughter returning after months of silence. But inside one small apartment, a single light pulsed quietly, carrying the memory of two lives that had crossed paths during the strangest time in human history, a human and an alien. Strangers once had shared fear, hope, and kindness. And when the world began to move again, both had changed forever. Because sometimes survival isn't about fighting. Sometimes it's about understanding and caring enough to stay.